Hello, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Nikki, and this is my channel Wool and Wags, where I sit down and talk to you about anything and everything knitting or crochet related. And sometimes, if we are blessed, Little Miss Wags will make an appearance. Today's video is a very exciting one. I have been looking forward to this video since I started this channel. This is my everything that I made in 2025. I do have my notes down here, so if you see me looking at them, that's why. But we're going to start with just a little bit of background. So I think that my first year ever touching knitting needles was probably the very end of 2023. 2024, I dabbled back and forth, but I would say that 2025, I would consider this my like year one knitting. 2024 was like my prequel, my year zero, but this is my first year, start to finish, that I feel like I am a knitter. So, because of that, I'm very excited to go through everything with you guys today. A little bit of stats. I would consider myself an average knitter. I don't think that I knit very fast or very slow. I do have a full-time job, which does limit some of my knitting, but all that to say, I have 13 garments that we'll go over today, 8 accessories, which does include socks, and 6 home slash other projects. So I think we should just get started right in on the garments, the most exciting part. And I am trying to do these in chronological order, from the beginning of the year to the most current finished object. It is made a little difficult by the fact that my Ravelry notes when I first started in the beginning of this year were not the greatest, but we're going to make do with what we can do. My first garment of 2025 was my sweater number 14 in Lane Cloud yarn, and it was color number 14, and I finished this garment on February 28th. This yarn, I think this year has went super viral, and I was really excited to knit with this. There is a creator on TikTok, I think her name is it Violet? Violent? Yeah, Violent Cat Lady. And she actually sells this yarn and has a pattern made with the Lane Cloud yarn. I originally bought the yarn not from her, but just like Wool and Company, and planned to make her pattern. But after I purchased it and started it, I realized that her whole pattern was knit flat, and I did not want to do that. So this yarn and this sweater came after multiple trials. I think I probably started and frogged this yarn and this sweater probably 4 to 5 times, honestly. And if you've ever worked with this yarn, you know that it's not very easy to frog. So I had lots of breaks and little bitty scraps that I ended up just having to throw out. But I did finally get my sweater number 14. That's what I decided on with the yarn, and I do really like this sweater. I have some grievances, mainly that I didn't really have the knowledge or wherewithal to think about the striping from the body on a wider circumference versus the arms, which were shorter. So the stripes on the arms are a lot thicker than the body. And I think because it's such an exaggerated drop shoulder, and I did knit it with a lot of ease, that the arms look a little T-Rex and a little funny to me. The drop shoulder is just like almost to my elbow. And then I like bracelet length sleeves. So then the sleeves just ended up being really, really small. All that to say, I get a lot of wear out of this sweater. I'm not 100% sure it's in my color palette, but I still really love it. And yeah, it's really comfy. The yarn does pill, but not anything crazy to where I wouldn't wear it. I have shaved it a few times, but yeah, I love this sweater. So that is sweater number 1. The next finished object that I have here is the champagne cardigan. This I finished on March 18th, and this one is kind of where I started to learn about gauge and the importance of gauge swatching, which I still have not learned my lesson. If you've seen any of my other videos, you'll know that. The champagne cardigan, I wanted this to be a very elevated, in the office, business casual type cardigan for me. And I actually found another user on Ravelry who had knit it with this exact yarn combo in the color. And I was like, that's it, I want it. So I ordered from Knitting for Olive and I knit this with Knitting for Olive Merino held double and soft silk mohair in the color powder. And this is where I kind of messed up. Because when I first ordered the yarn, I was thinking that I would only have to use one of the merino strands and one mohair. And I actually did a gauge swatch. This was my first ever gauge swatch, by the way. And I was like, this is not adding up. Why? Why? And then I realized that the suggested yarn was a lot thicker. So I'd have to hold the Knitting for Olive Merino double, which, as you can imagine, doubling up the amount of yarn that you thought you would need in one of your strands made it a lot more expensive project. And I wasn't 100% prepared for that, but needless to say, I bought more yarn. I made it work. Some modifications that I did with this was I knitted all my rib, twisted rib, and the raglan, I always just do the raglan increases till I feel like they fit my body, not necessarily what the pattern or petite knit recommends. And yeah, I you'll see probably with every project I have something that I don't like about it. And with my champagne cardigan, I really think it's just the length. Maybe the length and the sizing. I think now that I say that, I really don't know because I wanted it to be a more business casual type of cardigan. So the sizing's probably correct. I just need more length on it. And sometimes raglans just aren't the fit that I like. So I'm not 100% sure. I think the button spacing is a little off too, if I'm being honest, but I don't think anybody will be able to tell that with a naked eye. Either way, that's my champagne cardigan. I've probably worn that total of like 4 to 5 times this year, which sucks because it's probably my most expensive project, but that's it. Okay, so the next project is my cloud tank. I knit this in Lion Brand Kobu. I think it's Kobu yarn. I finished this on March 31st and the color of the yarn was mauve. This is the start of two tragedies. I actually knit this when I was traveling and I only brought this yarn and I think one, maybe two needle sizes. So I had to make something work, and the cloud tank was the pattern that I found worked with it. I've actually had this yarn in my stash since I started years ago when I started crocheting, and I absolutely hate the yarn. I started crocheting with it, and it splits so badly, and I was like, I can't crochet with this. So now that I was knitting and I felt like I was kind of in a groove, I was like, well, let me try knitting with it, and it was still really bad. I used metal needles and it's just very slippery. I think the composition is bamboo and cotton. I'll have to double check that, but I needed something to knit while I was on vacation, so I just made this. And I actually did get a good bit of wear out of it until tragedy struck and I got a hole in the in the underarm area. And I do think that that is because of the yarn composition and being able to weave in the ends. It's just not sticky at all like wool is. So that end, there was just no invisible way to secure those ends. So that end just ended up coming undone, which sucked because when it happened was actually when I was in Seattle for flock. I don't know how long I was walking around with a hole in my arm. That was sad, but also not that sad because I liked the finished object. I hated the process with this one. And I think because I liked the finished object so much, I did order more of this yarn. No matter how much I hated it, I knit a second cloud tank and I did the same exact yarn in the color black and I finished it on May 3rd. This one is also a tragedy, and I think that I should have learned my lesson the first time with the yarn, but I didn't. So I actually the first one, the hole happened after I knit the second one, just for some context. So I just had this nice finished object that was really wearable in Southern California. Even though I hated the process, I was like, it's worth it to get this finished object. So I ordered the yarn, made another one. And I don't know if over the years that they had changed the manufacturing of the yarn or if maybe just the different color felt different, but it was actually much more pleasant to work with than the mauve. But I decided to wash and dry this because it said it was washable and dryable, and the colors just didn't work out. Like it faded all the way until in some areas I would consider it like a charcoal gray. And yeah, it just didn't work out. Neither one of them worked out. I don't have either one of them anymore. I think I donated both of them. So hopefully somebody else out there is making good use out of them. So that takes us to May 3rd. Our next one is my vest type A or type A vest. I finished this on May 11th, which is really close to the cloud tank, which was May 3rd. But I think I actually started this before I finished the cloud tank and licorice, but I ran out of yarn and I had to order more yarn from Knitting for Olive, which is a commute, obviously. So that's why it ended up being finished May 11th, so close back to back. But I saw this vest and I loved it and definitely was like, I want a summery version of it. So I decided to do it in Knitting for Olive cotton merino. I was not going to get burned again by using a bamboo or 100% cotton yarn. I was like, I want something with wool in it to help me hopefully combat some of the issues I had with the other yarn. So I ordered it. I got it in the color Dusty Artichoke. And like I said, I finished it May 11th. This knit, I think that this was my first time ever knitting something with not the recommended needle size. I'm pretty sure. I pretty much hit gauge on most of my things, but this is the first time I actually went down in a needle size because I wasn't liking the fabric that it was creating on the suggested needle size. And yeah, so I went down and I do really like the finished object of this. The only thing, or a few things, I was a little unsure about the twisted rib details because I didn't love the twisted rib details on my champagne cardigan. And I'm not sure if that's just me because I know a lot of people actually prefer it. And I think when I was consulting all of my friends, they all were like, no, we like the twisted rib. So I kept it. I did go ahead and do something that the pattern recommends that you do, which was thread elastic through the openings, the neck, the body, and the sleeves. I did go ahead and do that. I think with a crochet hook is how it was actually recommended. That made me want to crash out, but I got it done. I really like the finished object. The elastic around the body is a little weird to me because I don't really like anything getting tight around my hip area, but I've got a lot of wear out of this and I do really love the color. And that's probably I get complimented the most about that specific color. So, which Dusty Artichoke, I think it's been popular with Knitting for Olive for a very long time for a good reason. So that is my vest type A. I think this was also my second ever cabling project. So the next one, this one's a big hitter. This is my Eva cardigan by Petite Knit. And I knit this in Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino in the color Thundercloud. And I finished this on June 2nd. This was my first ever time working with heavy merino, which has since become probably my favorite yarn that I've worked with that I can get commercially, I would say. And the Eva cardigan it's definitely like top 3, 4 of my knits. It is just a workhorse. Like it's exactly what I set out for it to be. I wanted it to be a neutral, a casual that I could wear over anything, over a t-shirt, over a nicer, semi-nicer shirt, and that it would just always be there for me type of cardigan. And I think I achieved that. I was really nervous about the length because I didn't want to have a champagne cardigan redo where I liked it but not the length. And also really nervous because the Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino blocks out crazily. I think I may have some pictures of the pre and post blocking. So if I do, I will show you. But this yarn blocks like crazy. It's a great cardigan. I would definitely knit this cardigan again. I've thought about knitting again and kind of merging it with the champagne cardigan, like a champagne Eva type situation where I made the button band a double knit button band and changed it to 1 by 1 on the sleeves and the body, but kept I'm not quite sure what it's called. I don't think it's a saddle, but a continuous sleeve type situation that the Eva has, which I love the fit. I think this is definitely one of my best fitting garment. The Eva is a big hit here. All right, we're turning the page. I think we're making good progress. So the next one we're in the summer months, and we got kind of crazy in the summer months. And I don't know if I was going through a knitting slump, if I was just over knitting, but I was like, I want to crochet. So I crocheted two things back to back. The first one, this was definitely because of a TikTok. I wanted a poncho. So I knit a granny stitch poncho. I kind of followed a tutorial off of TikTok, but really just made it my own. I used the yarn Loops and Threads Facets, which is just an acrylic yarn in the color Autumn, and I finished this on June 11th. I actually remember working on this while I was on vacation in Joshua Tree, which is wild because it was 100 something degrees and I was playing with yarn, but at least it wasn't wool, it was acrylic. So I've never worn this. I should because it is really pretty. I just don't know that I could make an outfit work, but I fear I may have to because I do really like it. I like this yarn. I've worked with this yarn some more, which you'll see coming up soon. And then next up, I actually made an hexagon cardigan with Karen Blossom cakes in the color Blossoms, and I finished this July 13th. I worked on this in tandem, I'm pretty sure, with the granny poncho, but this yarn was left over from, again, another project you'll see coming up, but I really wanted to use it. I didn't want to waste it because these cakes are like $13 normally. I think I did get them on sale, but still. And I've made a or granny cardigan, but a hexagon cardigan before for myself, and I did actually wear it a lot before I started knitting and then started getting like knit objects. But I decided to make another hexagon cardigan, and I actually made this for one of my friends and I mailed it off to her. She's in Alabama and she wears it a lot, I think. And she's gotten quite a few compliments, which makes me happy. She loves purple, so I think it worked perfectly for her. And I went up, I think, significantly in the crochet hook size so that the holes were dramatic and it draped a lot better so that it would work better with the Alabama weather. Yeah, that's my hexagon cardigan. And the next one is the Step by Step sweater. I made this in the Lane Cloud yarn in the color number 12, and I finished this on August 3rd. I think this was actually a really quick knit too. I think I only took a little over 2 weeks. I did not want to spend the money on this yarn, and I knew how this yarn was pilling in my sweater number 14, but I fell in love with the color, and I even looked at different yards to try to find a similar color and couldn't. So I just knew that I had to suck it up, pay the price, and make another sweater in this yarn. And this has become probably my most worn knit because I wear this around the house a lot. I wanted it to be the oversized, comfy, slouchy sweater of my dreams, and I half reached that goal. I think the main thing that I would change about it is the neckline. It has turned out, because you knit the neckline first on the step by step and then do your raglan, it's turned out to be a boat neck situation. And the other thing I think I might change is the sleeves. I think I needed more stitches on the sleeves. I got the really oversized fit on the body, but then the sleeves are a little bit more fitted. So I think it looks a little bit disproportionate, but I get a lot of compliments on this sweater, and it is just really comfy, cozy. So I can't complain too much. I'm trying to think if I made any modifications on this. I think the only modifications that I made on it was this was one of the first sweaters that I knit my ribbing inside out to make it look a little bit neater. Yeah, I think that was the only modifications. Okay, moving right along. My next sweater is my Olga sweater, which I made in Drops Charisma. I used the colors 30, which was light denim blue, and 66, which is light dusty pink, and I finished this on August 28th. This sweater was the crash outs of all crash outs, and I mean like consistently along knitting the sweater. It was a crash out almost every time I picked it up. The first crash out was when I got the yarn in the mail because I ordered this specific yarn combination after seeing another user on Ravelry knit this version, and I loved her colors, but when I got them, they weren't the same colors. So it took me a while to start it after I got the yarn because I was like, this is giving gender reveal. And I have since nicknamed it my gender reveal sweater. and I've grown to love her, but along the knitting process, the yarn was just uncomfortable to knit with. It acted crazy when it was blocking. I think I'll have to look it up. I think it was superwash, or I think it is superwash, but it's also really like scratchy. I also was not doing a great job with jogless stripes. I think I got it in the end, and it was just about my tension when I was doing the jogless stripes. So I think the last sleeve that I knit, I got it, but also like the Olga is has some weird dimensions. I think I've seen other people complain about this. Has some weird dimensions in the arms, like being a little too tight and really long. So, and it's not as easy to just knit a few rows less because you're doing a stripe pattern. This one took me a long time because I put her in timeout multiple times. But since then, I wear this one quite often and I get a lot of compliments on it. And I do really like the fit in the body. I I think I've seen somebody else do this as well where they just knit a normal like one color version of the Olga just because the construction of it is really nice and I can definitely see myself doing that. So, that's my gender reveal Olga sweater. The next, let's see where we are. Oh, we don't have too many left. The next is my cloud tee, not to be confused with my two cloud tanks that we don't like to speak about. But my cloud tee, I made this in Piles and Hellhound yarn, which is a hand dyer that I bought this yarn at Flock Fiber Festival. It is in their Selkie base, which is 80, if I remember correctly, it's 85% wool, 15% silk in the color Yugen. I finished this on October 7th. I think this was a very long knit for me because it's fingering weight on like I think 3.75 needles, millimeter needles, maybe. It was a very long, methodical, very slow progress, but it is also one of my top knits. I love the feel of it against my skin. It's very lightweight, being fingering weight and soft with the silk. And I've worn this quite a bit and I love it every time I wear it. The color is my absolute favorite color of yarn that I think I've ever worn or bought myself. I did plan to try to buy more yarn in this specific color, whether it was in the same base or not. But I looked up the yarn dyer's website and she's not really selling anything in that yarn right or in that color right now. Either way, this cloud tee is glorious. I don't think I made any modifications other than again knitting the ribbing inside out and I love her. I love her so much. I could wear her a lot. And I'm not 100% sure if it's just the construction that makes me feel really good when I wear it or if it's the color or the yarn base. I'm not quite sure. I do have another fingering weight tank tee quantity of yarn that I got from Flock in Sorella's cotton linen yarn. And I think I've decided to make another cloud tee to kind of see what is it about this garment that I love the most. I love all aspects of it, but see what I love the most. So changing up the yarn and the composition, I'm gonna see, and the color. But that's my cloud tee. Turning the page again, the next sweater we have is my snow sweater. I've talked a lot about this snow sweater on the channel because I actually filmed an entire project vlog, start to finish of the snow sweater. It was my Christmas sweater for 2025. I knit this in the suggested yarn and suggested colors. So knitting for olive merino and soft silk mohair held together in the color midnight, dusty olive, and cream. I finished this on November 27th, so just in time for December. But this yarn, I think the yarn combo of the light fingering and the lace is just not thick and rustic enough for me. It's not heavy enough because the way that the sweater sits on me, I don't really enjoy. This is my first ever color work sweater, even though I've again said this many times, I do consider it baby color work because it was just on the sleeves. And this was also my first ever circular yoke construction. I don't think I mind the circular yoke too much because I don't think the circular yoke is what makes me not like the drape. I think it's more of the yarn weight. I didn't really enjoy knitting the circular yoke because I don't know if every circular yoke is like this, but the way that you increase is make one lefts. And I've said this before, make one lefts are the worst. Make one rights are tolerable. knit one front and back is probably my favorite increase. Random lore drop, I guess. The snow sweater, I'm happy that I have it. I don't think I will be knitting another so blatantly Christmas sweater object anytime soon. The color work, my tension was all over the place. I made quite a few modifications with this one actually. The collar, I ended up, and this is actually different than even my project vlog, but the collar I ended up ripping out and just doing a single layer collar instead of the folded over. So I just did a 1x1 single layer collar, which I think matches really well with the finishings rather than the folded over. I knit a split hem just to try to help how this sweater was laying on me. I can only imagine if I wouldn't have done that because I already don't like the way it clings to me. So the split hem I do think helped a lot. And I also made quite a large modification of knitting the sleeves from the top down instead of like the pattern calls, doing it from the cuff up and grafting the sleeves. That was a pretty big and scary undertaking, and I do think it did lead to my sleeves being just a teensy bit longer than I would prefer, especially because they're more bell sleeves. I think I like all my sleeves to be bracelet length sleeves. So, but with them being so wide, I do think that they should have been a little shorter, but that's again totally fine. This is, I think, meant to be like a more art project type of sweater than a functional workhorse type of sweater. So that's my snow sweater, which I think I'm actually going to wear tonight. So excited about that. The last garment that I knit in 2025 is my baby that I'm actually wearing. This is my Rumi Raglan. I am so obsessed with it. I still can't get over it. I made it in Cascade Eco Wool. I'm pretty sure this is undyed, but it still has a color name for the undyed yarn. It's the chocolate color, and I paired it with Knitting for Olive Merino in the color hazel. Yeah, I just absolutely love this. I love everything about it. I finished it December 14th, started it December 1st. So this was my quickest knit of the year, garment wise for sure. And it's amazing. The fit of it, I love the shorter sleeves. It's bracelet length when I hold my sleeves down, but obviously, or hold my arms down, but when I'm holding my arms up, I get a lot of wrist forearm action here. It's so perfectly oversized. The weight is glorious. It's perfect in every single way. I love the color with the slight marling. Yeah, I just love this sweater. Like I said, it was pretty quick. The some modifications that I did, I again knit my ribbing inside out. I What else did I do? I casted on 2 extra stitches under the underarm. I think the recommended is 12. I did 14. This is a one size fits all pattern. And I still wanted that really good amount of ease that the pattern designer showed hers in. So I knew I would probably need a little bit of extra room because my bust size is bigger than hers. So yeah, I love it. I love it. I've worn it more than a lot of the other sweaters, and it's only been done for a few weeks. This is also the first sweater that my best friend's knitting, so it's going to be really exciting for us to eventually have matching sweaters. So, yeah, that's my Rumi Raglan, and that sums up all of the garments that I've made in 2025. And I do think we have a few good ones. I say if I had to rank these, I think the Rumi Raglan, my Cloud Tee, my Step by Step sweater, and my Eva cardigan are definitely top 4. Don't ask me to rank them in that top 4, but they're the top 4. So the next section is going to be accessories slash socks. And I may be moving around a little bit more because I didn't order these correctly in the notebook, but that's okay. The first that we are going to talk about is all of my Oslos, and these aren't going to be in chronological order like the garments were. This is just going to be free. What is the Wild Wild West? This is going to be the Wild Wild West. The first we're going to talk about is the Oslos that I've knit. I've knit 3 different ones. All of them, actually no, backtrack. I've knit 3 different ones. 4. I've knit 4. Right? Yes, I've knit 4. Lord. Okay. Getting it back together. The first one that I ever knit was with leftovers of my champagne cardigan. So I knit it in Knitting for Olive Merino, held double in the color powder. And this one was a big fat fail. I did not knit it long enough because I was, for some reason, so afraid that I was going to run out of yarn. And I still have a lot of this yarn left. I still really struggle with yarn amounts and gauge it and yarns and the math of all of that. And I don't think it's going to get better anytime soon, but that's okay. So the first one was in this color and it's just too small. The next one that I knit was for one of my close friends, one of my best friends, her husband. They came to visit and he was just admiring my knitting. And I don't think I'd ever gift knit for anybody before this, but he was like, I want a hat. And I was like, sure, let's do it. So we went through all of the Knitting for Olive website and he picked out Brown Bear. So I again knit the Oslo in Knitting for Olive Merino held double in the color Brown Bear. And I made sure to knit this one long enough, especially I mean, I feel like I probably have a big head, but I was worried about it being a man's head, that it might be even a little bit bigger. But I loved this one for sure. And I sent it off to him. I hope that he likes it and gets wear out of it, but who knows? So that's that. The next one, so the third one that I knit was again in the same combination, Knitting for Olive Merino, held double in the color Thunder Cloud, which is actually the same color that my Eva cardigan was in. So it was interesting seeing the two different bases, the heavy merino versus the merino. I knit this one for my dad. I pretty much followed, I think, the same sizing for my friend's husband. With my dad's, I may have knit the brim a little bit thicker because I really wanted to make sure that it would cover all of his ears. He's also received it. I know he's worn it a few times, so that's nice. And the last Oslo, so the fourth Oslo that I knit was for myself. And I knit this one in a different combination, still Knitting for Olive. Can you tell what my favorite yarn brand is? But I knit this in one strand of the Knitting for Olive Merino, one strand of compatible cashmere in the color Licorice. This yarn I did buy from La Mercerie in Seattle. And I actually cast this on while I was still in Seattle and got immediately to work with it because I was dying to see how the cashmere worked up. And I can report that it is amazing. And if you want to knit yourself an elevated winter set, I highly recommend this combo. I'm not quite sure how double cashmere would have worked out. I think the merino does help give it a little bit of structure, but it is so much softer than the ones that I knit with two strands of merino. So I'm really happy with it. I love that I knit it in black, so it's really easy to wear. It is just like my everyday beanie. I usually put this on right in the morning when I take little Miss Wags lady outside so that I can cover up my crazy bedhead, and it works perfectly for that. And I do plan on knitting more winter accessories in this combo. I do think I may want to knit one other Oslo hat in the color Bordeaux, and I think I'll do the cashmere and merino combination again. And I may make myself two winter sets. So, like the hat, maybe a Sophie scarf and gloves in the licorice and in Bordeaux. Maybe one day. We'll see. So, those are all my Oslos, and they're all great. It's definitely high up there on process knits. It's just such a cool, great pattern. It's all knitting with a little bit of a, like, I don't want to give too much of the pattern away, but with a short row and decreases. And it's just knitting, knitting, knitting on smaller needles. And yeah, it's a great, great travel project. If you don't knit socks, I think it's even better than socks actually, because I still am a newer sock knitter. I think it's better than socks. Let's just mosey on along. We'll talk about, what should we talk about next? We'll get my Sophie shawl out of the way. This is also something I've talked about a little bit on the channel, but I knit the Sophie shawl in Studio Misha or Misha and Puff in the color Fig. I bought this yarn from my local yarn store I think with the intention of a Sophie shawl. It was definitely with the intention of some type of scarf. And I didn't cast it on for a while. And then finally I was like, I want to get this out of my stash. And so I did. You can go back and watch the vlog where I knit on this and the podcast. I was very doubtful of this because of that big of a scarf in Southern California seems crazy. It was superwash, or it is superwash yarn, so it wasn't like the warmest, and I just didn't see myself using it. And I have actually used it quite a bit since I finished it this winter season. I love it. I really don't have much complaints. You can wear it in quite a few different ways, and I am glad that I did the Sophie shawl instead of the Sophie hood because I can make that shawl into a hood versus I feel like the Sophie hood may look a little bit weird as just a shawl. I'm not sure though because I don't have one. Either way, I really like it. I think that I like that it was superwash because it blocked out really long, which I love in scarves, so I can wrap it around multiple times. That's about it for the Sophie shawl. I'm happy with it. I could see myself knitting another Sophie shawl. I can see myself knitting many a Sophie everything. So yeah, that's the Sophie shawl. Next, we're going to get into socks, and I'm going to do these in chronological order. My first ever pair of socks, I made what I call my wicked socks. For all of my socks, I've used the Crazy Sock Ladies vanilla, yeah, I think it's just called vanilla sock. And I do them on 9-inch circulars. I do use double pointed needles in the end and in the heel situation. Still not sure all the terminology of which parts are which, but I did my Wicked socks. I think this is actually my first ever hand dyed yarn that I bought. It's from her Wicked collection. I did them in the color Shiz University, which is a really pretty blue. It's on Sorella's nylon sock, which I think is an 80/20, 85/15, who knows. Yeah, they are good. I think for a first time sock, I think my gauge is pretty good. I do think they're a little small, maybe in the foot length. I think in every pair of socks, I've never gotten the foot length perfect, but I'm also not 100% sure how they're supposed to fit, which I know seems like it should be obvious, but the heel situation, I'm just not quite sure where it's supposed to, like, should I have a little bit of the slip stitch heel going under my foot? Because that's a high friction area, or should it only be on the back of my heel? I really don't know, and I should probably do some research on that. Needless to say, for these, I felt pretty positive the foot was too short. I still like them, they're cute. The next pair of socks, I'm pretty positive the next pair are my pirate socks. So, again, same base pattern, the vanilla sock by Crazy Sock Lady. This is also in the Sorella nylon sock, and the color is Pirates of the Caribbean. I bought this sock base at Flock, and the contrast, I think it's a contrast cuff only, maybe. The contrast cuff was just a random mini that I also bought at Flock. And I love these. I love these. I love the color. I think they fit a little bit better. I need to wear them more because they are really comfy cozy. Those are my pirate socks. And I'm trying to think if I only knit 3 pairs of socks. I think I've only knit 3 pairs of socks. So the last pair of socks that I've made is the striped socks, my striped socks. And they are on a base from Fandom Fiber, and it's called their Supernatural Sock. It's in the color Lumity. And again, the contrast is made just with a random mini. Both of the main color and the contrast I got from Flock. This was one of the things I wanted to buy at Flock, which was a self-striping sock yarn. And I think that this sock base is my favorite ever sock base. I don't know what it is, but they just are so much more crisp than my Sorella sock base yarn. I think I'll definitely be trying to get yarn from them again. Yeah, I don't know what it is about their base. Lastly, I'll throw this in. I didn't really plan to throw this in. I have made one other sock, and that was my semi failed, still undetermined fail of my Halloween socks. These are my ghost socks. I bought the Colorwork Cuff Club Volume 1 and 2. I made these. I wanted them to be a shorty. This was my first ever colorwork ever. But these were before even my Christmas sweater. But they don't fit. They squeeze. The colorwork is tight. The colorwork is actually really, really loose, but I have big calves. So it's still a struggle there. I only made one because I was quite depressed about it. And the yarn I used was Knit Picks Palette. No, Knit Pick Stroll. I think it's Knit Pick Stroll. their sock yarn, and this was actually my first ever commercial sock yarn. All the other sock yarns I've used are hand dyed, and the quality difference was alarming. They, even as I was knitting, the yarn was fuzzy and pilling, and I just didn't love it. So all of that made me not want to knit the second one. The more I put it on, the more I'm like, it's really not that bad. I should just go ahead and knit a second one so that I can at least wear them once during the Halloween season. So that may be something I do next year, but not anytime soon. So yeah, that is all of my accessories slash socks. Okay, so we're gonna move into the very last category here, and it is just what I'm calling my home slash other. Some of these, I think most of these actually, are crochet. So the very first one we'll talk about is my primavera blanket. I hope I'm saying that right. It's actually a Spanish word. It means spring, so spring blanket. I'm pretty sure. I should probably fact check that, but I'm not going to. I made this in the Blossom Cakes yarn. This is actually where I got the yarn for the hexagon cardigan I made my friend. It was leftovers from this blanket. I used the colors Yacht Club, Radiant Rainbow, Tropical Rainbow, and Blossoms. I made this blanket, I don't even remember, probably middle of the year sometime, and I really enjoy it. It was it was a really good make. I did a really pretty picot edging. I made the blanket into a full-size blanket situation. I think I made this when I had to retire a beloved store-bought blanket. It was a fleece type of blanket that I had gotten when I was in college, and it had just started felting, I guess. Like, just it had just been used for a very long time. And I think I was mourning the loss of that blanket because I did love that blanket. And I think I'd even bought a few blankets off of Amazon, just store bought, and they weren't giving what I needed them to give. So I was like, I'm gonna make myself a blanket. And so I made this blanket. I do have some other crochet blankets, but I was like, I'm gonna make this one to be used because my other crochet blanket I don't use enough. So yeah, I made it. I used it a lot. I think it's really just pretty to have on the couch during the springtime. It's currently like behind me somewhere. I don't know if you could see it at all, but it hangs out there when I'm not using it and during this season because it is very springy. The pattern was good. I think it was free. I got it off of the blog of the person. I follow her, but I don't know her name. I'll have it posted somewhere. But yeah, I love this blanket. Next, oh, okay. We're going to talk about what I call my home paw tapestry. This was my first ever tapestry, my first and only ever tapestry. I'm pretty positive that I made. I made this for a best friend back home. She bought a house, so I made her this tapestry. I found the pattern off of Etsy. And for the yarn, I used the Loops and Threads Soft Classics in the color Cornflower, which is the blue color, Mushroom, which is the main color all over, and Dark Taupe, which is the brown, which is the paw. I really enjoyed this. I did have to be sat down, like looking at the chart the whole time I was knitting this, but I really enjoyed it, and I would make another. And I do think I have quite a few people in my life that would enjoy this because I'm surrounded by dog lovers. The only modification I did was I did a single crochet border around all of it just to make it look a little bit more put together. Put it on a dowel, gave it to her. I think she's hung it up in her new house now and she loves it too. So that's my home paw tapestry. Let's see what we have left. Oh, okay. So I made a fall pillow cover. This, I think, also, yes, was in my first ever vlog on the channel. So I made this with the Loops and Threads Facet yarn, which is the same yarn in the same color, autumn, that I did my granny poncho in. I just really wanted something else in this color because I love this color. And so I made a pillow cover for my pillow that stays on my couch. I'd had another pillow cover on it that I crocheted in a granny stitch, and I knew I didn't want it to have holes, but I wanted some good fall decor. That's basically about it. It's just a good pillow cover. I fastened it with some buttons. I love her, and she's still on there even though it's not fall anymore. It's definitely winter, but I think it goes well. Next up, oh, I made a few pumpkins. This was a free pattern, and I wanted again some fall decor, so I made some pumpkins. The first one that I made was with some scraps of my Knitting for Olive Merino. I think I used the powder again from my champagne cardigan and the brown bear from my friend's husband's Oslo hat. Whew. I love these little pumpkins. I think they're so cute. I am a little bit worried about that one specifically with storage and it being wool. So hopefully it doesn't get messed up. I made a second pumpkin for myself, which was in the Loops and Threads facet in the color Autumn. I like her a lot. And then I made a third one for my friend and I actually like double sized it and I made that one in the autumn color of the Loops and Threads. Okay, the very last one, which is also kind of rogue, the last one for the whole video. So if you made it this far, you're a real one, you're a winner. I have a porch goose. Her name is Glinda. She's sassy, she's great, and I am hard-headed and refuse to just buy her outfits because I'm a crafter. I'm like, I have to make the outfits. But because of that, I've had her since last Christmas and I've only made her one outfit and I call it her patriotic outfit. I think I made this originally for the 4th of July, but I do plan on cheating. I don't think it's cheating, but I plan on using it for the 4th of July, Memorial Day, Labor Day, and maybe possibly New Year's. Maybe. I bought a large pack of the Red Heart Super Saver acrylic yarn specifically for Galinda or any other just random little house projects or if I wanted to make like a stuffy for Lady or anything like that. And I made Glinda's patriotic outfit. I love it. I think it's so cute. It took way longer than I thought it would, which is why I have not made her another outfit, but I do need to. I really wanted to make her a Christmas one, and I do have regrets, but I also have this beautiful roomy raglan, so who can complain too much? I think that's about all that I have for you guys. It was definitely a big one, but reflecting on the year, I'm really proud of myself. I definitely think I challenged myself throughout the year in trying different knitting techniques and constructions for garments and everything. I'm very excited to see where 2026 takes me. I do feel like I'm in a little bit of a knitting slump right now after busting this roomy raglan out in 2 weeks and it being, I think, like the end all be all of garments. Like, I just love it. So I'm in a little bit of a slump. Nothing's really inspiring me, but I definitely am hoping that I get my mojo back and that 2026 ends up being an even better year than 2025. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time. Bye. Here, you gotta say hi to the people. Come here. Come here. Oh, precious. Oh, okay. Say hi to the people. Say hi. Say hi. Say hi. Oh, you're not into it? Oh, she's extra Frito right now. No. Say happy 2025. Thank you. Love you. I actually bought a big pack of the Red Heart Super Saver acrylic yarn. Oh, Jesus, the last one. Okay. Okay, sorry, technical difficulties.